there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy enough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know, we will. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will.
Can you hear me? You can hear me from
We
your
are
end.
going. Heaven knows where we are
Hello, Miss Ivan.
going, but we know we will get there.
Yes. Okay. You can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Hello, Colin. I can hear
Yeah,
you.
Mr. Ivan, can you?
We are
Yes, can you please unmute?
going. Heaven knows
your
where
voice
we are going, but we know we will get there.
Hello, Mr. Ivan.
We are going. Heaven
Can you hear
knows
me?
where we are going.
Okay, but I can't hear you from your side through the Zoom. I can't hear you. I can't hear you through Zoom. I can hear you on phone as I'm talking.
boom, boom. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there.
Hello, Dr. Juliet.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you too.
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom.
عمل ميوت.
Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know, we will. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. But we know we will. We
Hi,
are
it seems we can't hear you.
going. Heaven knows where
Can you
we
hear me?
are going. But we know we will get there.
Yeah, it seems there's no sound.
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know we will get there. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Great. Okay, so we can start. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the second day of our conversation around the impact of COVID-19 on the oil and gas industry and how industry players are adapting and changing strategy to be effective and still survive in this situation. Yesterday, we had a very interesting conversation and listening to the operators or the IOCs, if you like, and key issues emerged, which had to do with investment, new ways of working and adapting in the industry, the impact of COVID-19 on the supply chain of the industry, and also how strategies are evolving to actually adapt going forward. We understood from the investment perspective that a lot of businesses are on hold as a result of the COVID. Some exploratory expenditures would not happen as scheduled earlier. The companies considered that they would have to wait a little more to see how things change over time to allow such investment to actually come on board. And it has also become necessary for some force majeure to be activated, in contracts to allow some of those suspension to actually happen. Again, the fiscal position of these companies have been impacted severely, and also for governments, because oil price has slumped, and therefore what they projected to receive, they're not going to receive them. And therefore, it puts a lot of strain on the companies and how they function at this point in time. The new ways of emerging for most oil companies are that they now have to learn to work from home as much as possible. And those businesses or operations that cannot be carried out at home, some staff have to be on site to actually deliver on those activities. So strategies are emerging to ensure that people to then you can keep on site to ensure that you are not you remain compliant with the COVID-19 protocols as has been established by WHO and various countries. It's very important to invest in technology to ensure that you can communicate fluidly when movement of people are not possible. And again, with an industry that relies so much on data that can be expensive and also proprietary, you need to have more secure systems in terms of technology to be able to transmit that kind of data. So more investment is being made in technology to allow communication to happen much more securely. It's also been difficult to move skills where you could fly in engineers to attend to specific issues. You now cannot do it. So technology is bridging the gap. And in most cases, it's also difficult to even adjust where you need such expertise on the ground, to be able to deliver on those. So a lot of contracts have also been canceled to them along the supply chain, because if the industry is struggling, they have to make the necessary cuts to allow the companies to stay afloat. So in situations where local supply chain cannot really hold the industry in this situation, it gets much more difficult. And that raises the question about how do we empower local industries to be able to really up their game in improving on supply chain activities and also engagement in the industry to be able to account for some of these challenges that industry will be facing into the future. Some of the management issues around this situation has also been for them to have a swift response, i.e. having management teams that continuously review the COVID situation to be able to adjust planning to be effective in delivering their work. And also, again, now you have to interface with broader society and not just the oil and gas industry. For example, the health ministries and agencies have become relevant, and you have to now begin to work closely with the health agencies to attend to situations that may arise on production so that you can be effective at addressing health issues as they emerge. Some of the strategies that some of the companies adopted, physical strategies were to hedge, to be able to hold the price at a certain optimal level that allowed them to endure. And Talo cited how helpful their hedging strategy has helped them in this particular situation that they find themselves. So key point that contracts renegotiation are becoming relevant, so that contracts that you would have ordinarily canceled because of force majeure can be delayed or negotiated for some of the service companies and contractors to have some breather and not outrightly cancel the contracts. Again, the pandemic is informing a new way of shaping contracts, and into the future, pandemics will become composite of contracts in terms of force majeure, so that you can clearly articulate that in clauses in contracts, to be able to avoid, some litigation when you have to cancel contracts during some of these situations. We're also made to understand that it's a new normal that will have to inform how companies work, and the companies that can adapt critical strategies into the future are the ones that can actually survive if we have similar situations into the future. And operational models of companies will now have to be recalibrated to adjust to some of these situations. It also became prominent in the conversation that for Africans, we now have to begin to consider how we trade among ourselves. For example, if gas is stranded in Nigeria and it is relevant for consumption in Ivory Coast, Ghana, or any other African country, how do we integrate infrastructure to be optimal at dispatching some of these hydrocarbons to these countries, so that where LNG transportation is becoming difficult, we can continue to wheel the gas through pipelines. So we need to adapt. We need to learn and recognize that the new normal provides opportunities as well for the African continent and for the industry at large. So today, we have the national oil companies to also tell us from their perspective how the industry has been affected from their perspective and how they are adjusting to the new normal. We are fortunate to have Dr. Juliet Anoche, who is a seasoned industry player, a friend of ACEP. She's been very gracious in many occasions to help out with some of these conversations. She is an experienced lawyer a local content specialist in the oil and gas industry. She's now a principal consultant at Angola and Co. Ghana Limited. She will facilitate this conversation for us, and we would come back to run up after the conversation. So thank you very much, and welcome to all for this important conversation. Dr. Juliet, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you all for joining this afternoon. I think Ben has already said the context, so I won't belabor the point and go into the background. I think we all know the background, except to say that the oil industry goes through various cycles. And I think this is the third cycle in the past 12 years. After the last two, the industry rebounded, everything was fine, business continued as usual. So we thought we were all out of the woods. But the current context in which we are is like nothing that we have seen before. You have a triple lock of issues. You have a supply shock, you have an unprecedented demand drop, and the third issue is a global humanitarian crisis that we are facing. Additionally, because this is not just an oil-specific crisis, the crisis has also affected the financial and structural health of the industry. So we see that previously, where we had very ferocious and active financial markets that encouraged a lot of capital splashing around, that has actually given way to the cold and impotent ash of today's 30-year low prices. And the difference with this pandemic is that this time it is brutal, it is bloody, and not only is it brutal and bloody, we have no idea when it's all going to end. We have no idea when we are going to come out of this. So yesterday, as Ben has rightly said, we had the E&P companies. This year, we have the national oil companies. So it'll be very interesting to also hear the perspective of the national oil companies in relation to how COVID-19 has affected the various national oil companies. With me today, I have 4 panelists, and I believe all their bios are on the ACEP website, so I won't go into much detail, except just to introduce them, to tell you who they are in brief. I have Mr. Laparan Gideon Morintat, who is the CEO and the Managing Director of the National Oil Company of Kenya, NOC. Thank you so much, Mr. Laparan, for joining us. We have Mr. James Yamwa, who is the Acting Chief Operating Officer with Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. We have Mr. Ayman M.A. Abujuk, who is the Director General of Sudapet, all the way in Sudan. And lastly, but not the least, we have Mr. Rudencio Morer, who is a VP Exploration and Production with ENH Mozambique. So Ika can first of all start with, in the order in which I have been given, if I can start with you, Mr. Morintat in Kenya. If you can just share with us your perspectives, how has COVID affected the National Oil Company in Kenya? Are there any lessons that you can share with us? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliet. It's my pleasure to be part of the panelists for today's webinar. First and foremost, I extend greetings from Kenya, greetings from National Oil Corporation to all participants present in the webinar. These are unprecedented times, very much challenging times indeed. And as Ben captured, the oil industry currently, in the last few months, has actually faced 2 issues. The first one is the price wars caused by mainly Russia and Saudi Arabia. And the other issue is depressed demand of petroleum products as a result of the limited or no movement which is an impact or as a result of COVID-19. And what have we done as national oil companies to mitigate? As they say, every cloud has a silver lining. COVID-19 is a unique scenario which actually gives us the opportunity to rethink outside the box or to make it work as a catalyst on how we can react to future unforeseen circumstances. And this has actually come to put in test all the risk mitigation measures that we had put in place as oil companies, especially local native African oil companies. And it has also come to put to test some of what we thought were best practice business continuity plans for our organizations. And so how have we, as National Oil Corporation of Kenya, reacted to try and survive during this time? The first and foremost, when governments were working to develop new policies or guidelines to help people and companies mitigate or manage the impact of COVID-19, we lobbied government to make sure that petroleum marketing companies are classified as essential service providers. So that then, even where cessation of movement is instituted or where curfews are imposed, then our employees and our operations are not impacted, because then we would get exemptions. And that is one of the things that we did as National Oil Corporation of Kenya. Of course, we also thought, just like everybody else, and quickly put in place mechanisms to enhance remote working so that 90% of the staff could work from home to deliver, except for those critical functions where you would require actual physical presence of staff. And so technology here came in handy, because then we were able to utilize the internet effectively. We were able to utilize the new and normal tools of engagement, like what we are doing now, Zoom, and Skype, and other modes of distance connection communication appliances. We also, as an organization, had to ensure that we enhance our operational excellence, doing more for less. And that means we had to prioritize on our activities that we need to do, so that then we only undertook those activities that could not wait for the next day. Where we found it not to be appropriate, we deferred or stopped operations. Like, for instance, in our exploration activities on Block 14T here in Kenya, we have actually deferred our operations so that now everybody who was working in the field was recalled back to the office, and they went back to be with their families until the curve is, managed in as far as the infections are concerned in Africa and in Kenya in particular. In other instances, we had to rely on technology to undertake those activities that we could not cancel, especially on issues around contracts, where we were supposed to have to undertake due diligence. We had to do them through video conferencing and video tours to site, remote, due diligence activities. And we have seen this work. And where it could not work, then it also necessitated in us canceling certain contracts. And basically, in a nutshell, that is what we have been able to do in terms of operationally. And so you can see, COVID-19 has forced us to think outside the box or actually to think without a box, and to support government and to support citizens and to also appear as a responsible corporate citizen. We have also participated in supporting initiatives to reduce the impact or to reduce the spread of coronavirus. We have encouraged our staff to work remotely, and those that come to work, we have encouraged to minimize movements so that then we work within social distancing parameters, observing all the World Health Organization's directives on how to handle activities around crowded areas. So we have put in safety mechanisms, health mechanisms within the office. We have installed automatic, sanitizer dispensers. We have installed additional hand washing areas, and we have put in place measures to ensure that social distancing is undertaken. Over and above that, National Oil participated in a program in conjunction with the rest of the petroleum sector in Kenya to manufacture sanitizers, which would be distributed or which are being currently distributed for free by the government of Kenya. And so we partnered with all the private OMCs, National Oil and the Kenya Pipeline Company to manufacture and distribute free hand wash sanitizers for communities, especially to the vulnerable and the low income segment of the population. I think I will not take much of the time. I would stop there. I hope I have tried to capture the issues around how we as the National Oil Corporation of Kenya have reacted or responded to COVID-19. Thank you, Juliet.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll just if I can just catch you for one question before you go. In terms of government support, have you received any financial support from the government at all? Hello?
I can hear you. In terms of government support, we have put in a number of proposals to the table for government,
okay,
and including requesting for financial support. And I'm happy to report that we have actually received additional exchequer allocation in terms of budgetary allocations for our activities to help us mitigate on the impact of COVID-19. Yes, yes.
That is excellent. It's excellent to hear. Thank you so much, Mr. Laparan from Kenya. I'll now move on swiftly to Mr. Yamwa James from GNPC here in Ghana. So if you can also share your perspectives with us broadly, how COVID has affected GNPC, and also in particular, what are the lessons and what initiatives has GNPC embarked on during these very difficult times that we can learn from. So James, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Juliet. I would like to thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity to share our side of the story as well. And then also we'll thank the audience for tuning in. And a great good afternoon to my colleagues, captains of the industry. First of all, I just want to share our mandates as a national oil company and the objects with those who don't know what we do as GNPC. GNPC was established in 1983 by GNPC law 1983, that is the law 64, as a commercial strategic vehicle for state participation in the oil and gas industry. Our object is very simple: to undertake exploration, development, production, and then disposal of the petroleum that we produce. Under the new law, that is the Act 919, the Exploration and Production Act of 2016, we have an exclusive rights and a partnership. So what that says is that the exploration and production in Ghana, or any company of any corporate body that seeks to undertake any exploration and production activity in Ghana has to give GNPC a signing in the petroleum agreements, up to 15% participation. And we do this as part of our mandate. We are required that in undertaking such functions of exploration and production, we must maximize the benefits of these petroleum resources to Ghanaians. So our role now becomes a dual one, a commercial role, and then an operational role. But most often, we do have the enabler as government wing to the IOCs. As my boss or colleague from Kenya has said, we have also had our fair share of this pandemic. And I have just grouped them into very high and then high. The highest, as we all know, is the workplace health and safety that this pandemic poses. A lot of us are working from home, and increasing numbers now have to work from home. And working from home poses a lot of technological challenges, and then risk from that arises from display screen equipment, that is DSE. Because the nature of our job is that we do interpretation and we do what we call the workstations. So we have a challenge just looking at display. It affects the eye, and then also lone working. We are working from home and it's very lonely. Our job is such that without a physical presence at our work, all what we do is hampered. And then also the stress and the mental health that comes with it. Then we go to the operational. By law, as I said, we have minority stakes in the blocks, and we have limited control over operations. So under such pandemic, IOCs take business decisions to safeguard their investments and not the national interest. So some has decided to suspend their operations, and then others to have deferred it to next year, second and third quarter. So hitherto, the new exploration that we thought we were going to do and then add on into our reserves, all has been suspended. So these are some of the impacts that as a national oil company we face. And then also there is very depressed demand for fossil fuel, low foreign direct investments. As you know, if there is an effect on the operation side, it translates proportionally onto revenue. So there is low oil price, which affects our revenues and cash flows. And this also affects the share that government gives to GNPC. As my colleague from Kenya was saying, they are very lucky that they had gotten something from government. In our case, what we even budgeted for is supposed to be slashed. So that is the difference. So in all this, we have to renew our emphasis on diversification of energy sources and alternate revenue streams. That going forward will help us as a national oil company. So what are some of the responses, strategic responses and risk mitigations that we have taken as a corporation or as a national oil company? Safety is very core to GNPC. So we embrace a safety mindset. And so we have built into our work in fact that everybody, that is every staff of GNPC, has to take a proactive approach to the COVID outbreak response. So what we do is there are some protocols that government and the Ghana Health Services has given, and we have to adhere to that strictly. There is no, in fact, every week my boss have a meeting. He meets departmental heads and then COVID response team, and then make sure that all protocols are followed to the letter. And then also, we need to consolidate gains in the upstream business segment. We have to pursue an aggressive change in the strategy from being just a facilitator to full operator in the upstream business. Because if you look at the national oil company in Kenya, for instance, they even have fuel stations. So there's supposed to be a continuous focus and increased investment in GMPC operated blocks. We are doing the Voltian Basin project. And although the pandemic has impacted so much so on us, it is not as it has on the national and the international companies, because for them, they are restricted. They cannot come in. But for us, if, for instance, we have our own block, we could operate without any hindrance. So we have one that has been reserved by government, and we pray that we have the necessary support to do the block 1. And then also we have 2 onshore blocks that should be acquired in 2021. We pray that that's also become fruition. And then we have to leverage subsidiaries for commercial participation. We have an SPLOCO, that is a commercial wing of GMPC. It's just our subsidiary. So we are craving for more funds so that they can take stake in the already ongoing producing fields or the new ones that are coming up. So that we can maximize in terms of revenue and then be self-sufficient. Whenever we mention self-sufficiency or an integrated oil company, it seems to have some misunderstanding in people's mind. But if you look at what is happening in Petronas, for instance, it's a fully fledged integrated oil company. So they don't depend solely on government for their cash flow. So there's supposed to be a new focus on the replacement and growth of our reserves. Also, what are some of the lessons that we have learned as a national oil company? There's supposed to be a need for a strong national oil company. That is, we have to focus on the operatorship and then some of our subsidiaries. As I said, Petronas, Aramco, and Petrobras, that's what they need. That's what they do. So we need to pursue multiple diversified revenue generation sources. And becoming an integrated oil company is consistent with value creation models of most successful NOCs. So GMPC, what you have to do is to intensify lobby efforts and secure stakeholder buy-in through effective engagement and messaging programs. We also have to do some capacity building, although where we sit now, we can operate our own field, but we think that education is not the end. So we have to also do well to build capacity. I will just stop here and then wait for a few questions and then come back with the conclusions, or if there is any questions, I'll wait for that. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you so much, James. I think that the plan is when we finish everything, I'll come back with a series of questions for every panelist. But just one quick question, which is pressing, is just to find out from you whether you, unlike Kenya, Kenya has received some sort of stimulus package from the government, so it doesn't appear as if their staff are in any imminent danger. So from where you're sitting in GMPC, do you think that if things carry on the way they're going, you mentioned that your budget has actually been cut, and I'm aware that in the news, it's always the topic has been coming up now and again, the budget shortfalls because of the issues that have come about as a result of COVID. Are you at any point envisaging, as an NOC, shedding some staff at all if this continues?
Yeah, thank you, Juliet. GMPC is a public organization, and the shareholders are those who have to give us the cash flow. So I cannot sit here and assume to know what is going to happen, but I don't hope so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. I think that would be a relief to your staff members in GNPC, because there is a concern. If you look at the bloodbath in the oil, the petroleum industry at the moment, Talu's shed staff, everyone in Ghana seems to have let their staff go. So there seems to be some anxiety as to whether the NOC is also going to follow suit, or at which stage, when would there be a tipping point where the NOC will also have to lay off its staff. So thank you so much for that assurance. I'll move on very quickly. I think my next panelist is Mr. Ayman, let me make sure that I get your name right, Abujuk from Sudan. If you can share with us your perspectives, what is going on in Sudan at the moment? Are you getting governmental help? Are you laying off your staff? What is your relationship with the IOCs that are operating in Sudan at the moment during this very difficult time? So, Mr. Abujuk, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. And thank you. I would like to thank the Africa Center for Energy Policy for arranging this conference. It is a good conference that to meet most of the African countries for oil and gas industry. This is a good chance. Although the reason is the COVID-19, but it is a chance to meet together, and this will be a start for even cooperation together as African countries in oil and gas industry. Thank you very much for you, Paulina, for the Africa Center in Energy and Gas. Thank my colleague from Kenya and Ghana and Mozambique for the presentation. I would like to share the screen, if you allow me. It is disabled from your side. A small presentation for 10 minutes about the agenda introduction about Sudan from Sudan and the COVID-19 emergency response plan and COVID-19 experience in operating companies and lesson learned. Can you allow me to share the screen? It is disabled from your side. It's okay now. It's okay now? Now you are seeing the presentation? Hello?
Hello, yes, we can see.
Small presentation. First, I will start with this is Sudan, the agenda. It's small introduction, business growth, COVID-19 emergency response plan, experience in operating company in Sudan, and lesson learned. Sudan is established in 1997 as a national oil company operating in the exploration, development, promotion, and commercial production of oil and gas, and is the shareholder in all of Sudan hydrocarbon concessions. Sudan has grown from 5% shareholder to 100% ownership of our sector and focus on maximizing our value through efficient production of oil and gas that enable the protection and enhancement of the national interest. Based on the national strategic objectives, Sudan expand its investment portfolio by establishing 8 subsidiaries for integrated oil and gas services in line with the government strategy of nationalizing the oil and gas industry. Our business growth with partnership. We have a lot of partnership since the start the oil in Sudan. The main of them is shown in the screen: CNBC from China National Petroleum Corporation, Petronas, Petronas from Malaysia, and ONGC from India. We have Ansan from Yemen, Al-Qahtani from Saudi Arabia, Express Petroleum from Nigeria, Bisana Energy from Nigeria, and Petro South Africa, and also Petro Vietnam from Vietnam, and Petro Mina, it is from Indonesia. Also, there is Talisman and State Petroleum from Canada. This is our partnership that we work together in exploring and developing oil and gas concession in Sudan. And those also some of our 8 subsidiary company, we are owning Sudabet 8 subsidiary company to nationalize the industry in Sudan. One of them is BGC company, company providing qualified 2D and 3D processing services, and also is data acquisition. It is also 2D and 3D seismic. We have also Centroid company. It is a project management consultancy company. It is already taking care from all the BA project management. And also we have a very big, well-established training center for the oil industry and even for other industries, well developed. Even also it can be shared for even African countries if required. In future we can cooperate with our neighbor countries also. We have also Asawir Oil and Gas. This is EPCC contractor doing engineering, procurement, construction, and commissioning for the oil and gas projects. Also, we have NUS, upstream solution. This is upstream, providing upstream services specialized in oil fields, drilling, mud logging, completion, wireline, and also we have a creative solution. This is doing providing engineering design for oil and gas sector. And we have the last one, number 8, is Dajrawiya. It's a manufacturing factory for manufacturing process for equipment of various industry sectors, like the vessels and skids. Those in the map, this is Sudan map, and those our concession below that are the current producing concession in Sudan, and are shareholders in all of them. It's Star Oil Blocks, Sharif now, Nile rating company, share with CNBC, Petronas, and ONGC, and 2B operating company, we have shared 50%, and we have a Rawat Petroleum operating company owning as 100%. This is the business cross share in GOCs, joint operating companies. We start with Greater Nile with 5%, and then with Petro Energy with 5%, and Petro Dar with 8% share. Star Oil and now came to Sharif, our companies 34%, and 2B operating companies 50%, and Rawat Petroleum operating company has 100% share. This is the gross. This is a brief introduction about Sudabet, the national oil company in Sudan. Then the second agenda is Sudabet COVID-19 emergency response plan. Upon early spread of COVID-19, we divided into five stages. Number 1, upon early spread of COVID-19 at Wuhan city in China, and before spread outside China, initiative was taken. Lectures, posters, emails, messages, and videos had been sent to all staff or employee for Sudabet and for subsidiaries. The second thing, upon we have also this one slide detail on this one. The second part will be upon declaration of the first positive COVID-19 case in Sudan. We will also show what is the precaution had been made in Sudabet. The third one, upon increase of positive, also we increase our precautions and we develop our emergency plan, emergency response plan. The fourth one, upon announcement of the total lockdown, the company took the also following measures. And the last one, we did the plan upon the lift of the lockdown by the authorities. So the number 1, the measures taken an early stage COVID-19, upon early spread of COVID-19 in Wuhan city at China, and before spread outside China, Sudabet managed to take the following initiative: in close coordination with Sudabet subsidiaries, comprehensive awareness combined took place by means of lectures, posters, and health bulletins circulated by emails, message, and videos. The above campaign continued until the lockdown imposed by government authority. This is the first stage from the response plan. The second one is upon declaration of the first positive COVID-19 case in Sudan. So the bed took the following strength preventive control measures, which is strict access to Sudabed building for only Sudabed and subsidiary staff. Second is registration of all business related visitors and classifying them according to the special form. Enforce general cleaning and sterilization of Sudabed premises. Install a temporary hand wash unit as entrance, as well as distribution of sanitizers. Strictly follow the procedure of hand wash and sterilization, then body temperature check, and wearing mask and gloves before entering the office premises. For all staff coming from abroad, either on business trip or vacation, special forms are to be filled, and the staff in question is advised to keep at home for 2 weeks before resumption of work. Avoidance of crowding by using telephone call, emails, video conference meeting instead of any other gathering activities such as face-to-face meeting, conference, and workshops. Avoidance of direct social contact, including handshake, and encouragement of hand washing and sterilization. Immediately report to common clinic once any COVID-19 like symptoms are felt, and those photos. The third stage upon increase of positive COVID-19 in Sudan, so the bed turned more serious in imposing the above mentioned measures. In addition to that, the bed follow strictly the instruction of Ministry of Energy and Mining according to the direction of Ministry of Health by dividing the workforce into 2 groups and applying back-to-back system on weekly basis without jeopardizing smooth operation. Exemption from attendance for vulnerable groups among example, parent ladies, staff of age more than 55 years, diabetics, hypertensive, chronic kidney disease. All those, any major disease, we stop them from coming to the office. This is one of the measures precautions have been made in that area. Then the 4 things upon announcement of the total lockdown, the company took the following measures. All staff are directed to stay at home until further notification. Formation of COVID-19 pandemic emergency committee headed by the QHSE department. Security passes obtained from issuing authorities for all COVID-19 pandemic emergency committee members, as well as staff occupying sensitive vacancies who might be called. So the better represented in the Central Emergency COVID-19 Committee, ACEP, the nominee, the company doctor, because the Ministry of Energy and Mining conducted a central emergency participated all the companies, doctors, and HSE representative in this committee, and it's conducting a daily meeting to follow and update the emergency response plan. Public emergency call number are also announced to be those numbers shown in the screen, 221 and 9090 in Khartoum state and in other states. The last one is immediately upon lift. This is the plan. We plan declared by the authority from coming. We will lift the lockdown, and we already prepared the plan upon lifting this lockdown by authority. So the Met will take the following steps in order to ensure safe resumption of work, a comprehensive sterilization of the whole, so the bed building before resumption of work, which is already done now, commencement of work with a minimum partial workforce with gradual increase to reach the state of normal business situation, taking in consideration the degree of virus spread. Instruction from Ministry of Energy and Mining with guideline from Ministry of Health and other concerned authorities. All previously mentioned precautions and measures shall be applied until declaration of Sudan free of COVID-19. Two cases were reported as positive. One of them was recovered. This is inside Sudabet staff. We have only recorded 2 cases positive, 1 recovered. 3 persons were announced as close contact. Now is recovered, 3 of them. All of them, they are isolated at their home for 14 days as per QHSC department directive. Return back to office committee was appointed to put plan for return to office when the lockdown is lifted by the authorities. This committee is headed by the Director General and all the directors, IT, QHSE, all departments, the GS, and we prepare a very strong plan to return back to avoid any spreading of this virus among our staff. This photo is showing the all the material have been supplied and prepared, and the material has been also put it in the reception of the company as a precautions. So the announcement would be voice announcement and written also announcement like those posters in the home office. This is the records of COVID-19 tested PCR positive 2 cases and contact cases 3, recovered 1 cases. The total are 5 persons inside Sudan. Things, this is 19 emergency response in operating company. Once we are a shareholder for all operating company, a big committee covering all the sector of oil and gas had been initiated by the Secretary, and we are conducting also a periodic meeting, making the precautions for protecting our all staff working in oil and gas, either in upstream or downstream. All companies, all company director and CEOs are members on this committee. We did a very good job to protect our staff, and luckily, unfortunately, we managed to close all oil fields for a period reach 3 months, and we prepare then plan to make cross shifting by testing the staff before mobilizing them to site. For oil and gas sector, there was a committee for all operating companies managed and headed by Sudabet Director General. The main scope of the committee is to plan for smooth operation during COVID-19 pandemic. The committee collected. Also, we participated. We participated as a sector, not only for oil and gas, as a social responsibility. We participated with around $2.5 million with the Ministry of Health, even by supplying the test tool and test equipment for the Ministry of Health. We assign part of our budget for Sudabet and for even other companies due to the lockdown, though there is no international training at that period. So we assign part of this budget to be donated for the government. And also we also participated for the poor families during Ramadan. This money had been collected from all companies and already distributed with a committee. The committee set plan for business continuity also. This is the main purpose of the committee, to protect our people, and we put a proper plan for business continuity during the spreading of the COVID-19, and cross-shift plan by isolating crew shift staff and tested them, and negative case only transported to the field. Up to now, there is no any positive case in all operating fields, as I highlight. Subcommittee was formed as an emergency coordination center for all operating companies, QHSE managers, and doctors to follow operation on daily basis. The lesson there for cross-shift crew change, staff should be isolated in quarantine separately before and after COVID-19 test. To use automation medical device, get the result in short time, 3 minutes. Don't depend on symptoms. We have 17 to 20% positive cases without any symptoms. This is an indicator of the percentage of spreading. The staff that have been tested before the test, we are checking them that they don't have any symptoms. Also, we are finding that around 17 to 20% of them are positively result as positive COVID-19 virus with them. This is an indicator that around 20% of the people, even without symptoms, they can have in Sudan have positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Long presentation, I think.
Thank you, Ayman, from Sudan. Just one quick question before you go, and then we'll move on to Rudencio from Mozambique. You mentioned that you operate an integrated model where you have 8 subsidiaries, as opposed to, I mean, GMPC was talking about they have subsidiaries, but in future they want to move to a scenario where they can have more subsidiaries so they can diversify. You are already operating a model where you have 8 subsidiaries. How has that helped you to survive during this very difficult COVID situation?
Yes, they are also following the same procedures. Part of them in our our building, in our Sudabet building, and part are outside, have separate building. So they are following our top committee, and they have all the direction have been followed by them, and they manage to proceed their work during COVID-19 following the same plan together with the operating company, because most of them are working as a contractor with the operating company. So they are part of the integrated plan, and we did our best to minimize the losses, and we manage that. Our production is going same. We didn't face any major decline in the production during this period, and we utilize our subsidiaries because this is one of the strategic things that we use our subsidiary to do the work and to nationalize the work in the oil industry.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very interesting. The part that you shut all the fields, but we'll come to that when we get to the questions, so that we can take all the questions together. So if I can just move very quickly to Mr. Rudencio Moreira, who's from Mozambique. Welcome. If you can also share with us what your NOC is doing, what measures you put in place, what lessons you've learned, what experiences can you share with us this afternoon? Over to you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
First, I would like to say thanks for this opportunity to share a bit of our experience. Sorry for my poor English, but I will try to communicate as well as it's possible. I can say that I'm lucky to be the last one, because we can see that we have so much in common. But just in few words, what I can say is that all of us, we are feeling the impact of COVID-19. And when you see Mozambique, when you find ENH, as all of you know, ENH is the national oil company. So we participate together with partners on all stages of exploration, production, and distribution. So some of the companies that we have in Mozambique working together with ENH, which is the national oil company, for example, ENI, Buzi Hydrocarbons, Sasol, CMH, Total, ExxonMobil. So in terms of projects, what we have, so we do have projects that are on the exploration phase, we have projects that are on development phase, and we do so have projects on production stage. So what does it mean? It means that when we do an assessment regarding the COVID-19 impact, so we'll find three stages of impact. So on the exploration side, what we face right now, so the activities like let's say seismic acquisition has been stopped because right now it's impossible to go to field and to do seismic acquisition. Regarding the job office, we are now working, let's say, bi-weekly, trying to respond to the OMS recommendation. So we're still working bi-weekly, as I was saying. So in trying also to be aligned, responding to the social distance. On production side, so we do have 2 fields in production. So we are talking about the Pandi Temane. So we're still producing. On development stage, what we face right now, the place where we can found that was not appropriate, we stopped the activity, but we are trying to find a way to work remotely. So what we can feel right now is that COVID-19 is giving us a chance to think outside the box. I think that we can feel the technology and the innovation knocking our doors. So what we can do now, we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to think outside to the box. So we need to find a way to communicate more, to engage more between the national oil companies together with the companies that's working with us, let's say the EOCs that can help us to face and to better respond to the COVID-19. So especially in Mozambique, what we are trying now is to minimize the impact of the COVID-19, doing what we can do, but knowing the things that we can't do. So the idea is to be associated with the operation excellence, doing more with less. So we do understand, all of us, that we have now less than we would like to have in the field, less that we would like to have in the office. So we need to cooperate with the efficient side. So as I was saying in the beginning, so all of my colleagues has been talking all of the things. So I think that we can see that we are connected, we are fighting together, and as NEH, we are doing our best to minimize the impact of COVID-19 in order to be able that when the things slow down, we come back with strong, we come back aligned to survive the impact of COVID-19. And we do hope so that this impact does not change much the activity that we have planned to 2020. So what we can say more, it's some of our activity has been postponed to next year. Some of the wells supposed to be drilled this year has been postponed. So some of the exploration phase has been extended. So let's say in Mozambique, we have, as the regulation law, 8 years for exploration. And those 8 years can be divided in sub-periods that can be 4 to 2, can be 5, 3. So what we are facing now, some of periods may be at the 3 years on the first stage. So what are the companies are trying to do? It's okay. Instead of it be 3, we will stand 1 year. It will be 4 years on the exploration stage in order to keep those 8 years, but trying to find a way to respond to this COVID-19 impact because we can't do much right now. We can't be in the field in some areas. So we are trying to put all the people together. We are trying to have a virtual meeting. So the tools now are helping us to find a way to stabilize the thing. But we are facing it. We are working together. We are communicating with all of our partners. So, but we are trying to, on those areas that we have production, we are keeping producing. Exploration, we have slowed down some of the activities. On the development phase, we are trying to push until where we can support the impact of COVID-19. I think that I can stop here saying that it's an amazing opportunity to share our experience, to share our side of the history regarding this pandemic and the impact that is becoming to be more efforts. But we hope so that the things will gonna slow down, then we can come back and try to face together as brothers. And thank you once again for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Rudencio. You didn't have to apologize for your English. That was very good English. And I think I will say thank you in the only Portuguese word I learned when I went to Rio, which is obrigado. So thank you. Thank you. That's the only Portuguese word I know. So thank you so much for your time. I just have a quick question for you before I now pick up the question for the panel. And you mentioned that you had some well drilling campaign that was coming up. You also spoke about exploration periods that you have, which is similar to Ghana. Ghana, we have 7 years, you have 8 years. And you're managing to massage it with the companies so that certain bits of it are extended. What I'd like to find out from you is what the legal impact has been. Have you been hit with any sort of legal concerns? Have you had companies coming claiming force majeure? Because of course, if you've awarded contracts to drill wells and that is no longer happening, how have you dealt with that? Or you haven't had any at all?
We haven't had this kind of situation, but as you know, as ENH, in Mozambique, we do have also the INP, which is the regulator. So we are together on the side with the IOCs. Then together we move to INP, which is the regulator, to put all those things in the table and trying to find the better way to respond to this situation. The thing is that let's say 2020 we can't do much. Let's say all the pre-drilling process has been postponed. So being postponed, it's mean that we can't be able to drill, let's say July, August, or September. So we need to extend it to find a way. But what we are trying to do in order to don't compromise that legislation situation is to keep the overall period, that is 8 years. So we are inside those 8 years. We are trying to keep inside those 8 years, to don't go away from those 8 years. So what we are doing, everything that we are doing thinking and trying to reorganizing all the things and to keep aligned with the 8 years. So, I mean, that's our job right now. Then we'll submit it for the INP, which is the national regulator in Mozambique.
Okay, thank you so much, Rudencio. And it's interesting to see that all the NOCs have in place very excellent COVID-19 coping strategies, and everyone is abiding by all the health protocols that we've been asked to abide by. I have a number of questions here which I need to put to you. The challenge I have is that we only have about 20 more minutes to finish this session. So I am going to use my discretion as a moderator and limit the questions to the ones that are relevant to COVID-19 issues. I must warn you, James, that there are a host of questions here for GMPC, a lot of which are not relevant for COVID-19. So I will use my discretion not to put those questions to you just because we only have 20 minutes, so that we can focus on what is very relevant to this particular session. And then perhaps after the session, those who have burning issues can find a means of engaging with you so that they can get answers to the questions which are not COVID-19 specific. But I want to start by going to Ayman in Sudan. And in Ayman, your presentation, you said that you shut down all the oil fields for 3 months, which I thought was very interesting. And I'm wondering how that affected your production as a country. Were there any legal issues? How did you deal with that? So if you can just talk us, just a couple of minutes, just talk us through what the impact of that closure for 3 months was and how you dealt with it. Thank you.
No, I want to explain that it's not a shutdown. It is a lockdown. We lock the field from from outside. So we kept all the staff that are field inside the fields, will not allow anyone to enter the field. And this is protect the staff. Till now, we didn't found any case in our site, in our field, even distributed among different area, but we protect them very close, and we lock the field for around 3 months. Then we start shifting, cross-shifting by the precautions that we made by testing, using automatic testing machine that had been supplied by us as an oil industry, and we give it as a donation for the Ministry of Health, but they give us priority for testing our staff. So we start after 3 months shifting our crew by first make the test and isolate them, then the negative results only are allowed to go to the field. But for the first 3 months, no one had been shifted, and we lock the field, and they appreciate even the efforts of our engineers, technicians, and workers. They did a good efforts to protect our production going smoothly without any effect. Also, they overstay. Normally, the cross shift is every 30 days. Some of them reach 3 months there. And now we near to cross shift all of them now, and we'll follow this procedure continuously till this COVID-19 stop totally.
Right. Okay, so it was a lockdown, but production carried on. Okay, all right. I'll just move to Kenya, Mr. Morinta Leparan. Just very quickly, I have a question here to find out, first of all, whether you've had any layoffs in Kenya, and also whether as an NOC, are you prepared to undertake mass testing of your staff, or have you done mass testing at all in Kenya? Hello, I think you've still got your mute on.
Thank you, Gillette, for the question. I have picked 2 questions from you, whether Kenya in general has experienced staff layoffs, and whether National Oil as an NOC has undertaken a mass testing activity.
Yes.
Yes, it is an unfortunate incident because a number of companies in Kenya have had to lay off their employees. Even those that have not laid off employees, quite a number of them have put their staff on very significant salary cuts, up to 10% pay. And I'm happy to report to the column and to the participant present that luckily the National Oil Corporation of Kenya has not had to reach that magnitude. This is not to say that our operations are optimal or normal. We have significantly experienced reduced revenues, which is affecting our cash flows. And that is why at the onset of my presentation, I said one of the things that we've done is to institute operational excellence initiatives and serious cost-cutting initiatives on a priority basis. On the same issue, a number of corporations have actually had to lay off staff. The latest being Kenya Airways, which is currently undertaking a restructuring activity, which will see more than 60% of the workforce laid off. A number of other companies across different sectors have had to do it. You may or you might have heard that actually Talo, the only successful operator in Kenya to have discovered oil, has declared a force majeure. And this they did after actually laying off a number of employees. And so this has happened, this is happening, and it is an unfortunate thing that we pray that we don't reach there. On the issue of mass testing of employees, yes, we have undertaken mass testing of employees in critical installations. A National Oil Corporation of Kenya operates both in the upstream and downstream sector. In the downstream sector, we have critical installations like depots and terminals. We have critical service provision points like gas stations or retail stations. And we have actually undertaken mass testing of our employees at the terminals. And I'm happy to report that Kenya has recorded more than 6,000 infections so far, and none of our staff is affected or infected. And yes, if and as when need arises, we might have to have everybody get tested. But since the infection was confirmed in Kenya, and since the movement was, movement and government initiatives to minimize the impact of coronavirus were initiated, only about 15% of my staff come to work in the office. The rest, we have facilitated them to be able to deliver on their functions from their homes. And this has greatly assisted us to minimize the risk of catching the infections. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Leparan. I'm moving on very quickly to James, but I like something that Leparan, you said, your euphemism for layoffs, that is the Operational Excellence Initiatives. So we'll bear that in mind. I didn't realize that when you said that, you meant that included laying off staff as well. But it is unfortunate that we are in these very difficult times. So very quickly, James, I have a lot of questions for you, but I'm just going to take out the ones that are relevant for this particular session. There was a point you made, which was very interesting, about the ability of GMPC to diversify. You mentioned Explore, and you spoke about what you were hoping to do in future in terms of lobbying stakeholders, just to get them on side to appreciate the fact that diversity could help in situations as we currently find ourselves in. And I wanted you to go over that, because I have a question which essentially says that since NOCs have a small stake in oil projects, what that means is that ultimately NOCs also end up with much smaller revenue. So in your opinion, how can the capacity of an NOC be enhanced so that NOCs don't appear helpless all the time? They don't seem to be at the receiving end of their relationship with IOCs. So if you can help us with that, please.
Thank you, Juliet. In terms of consolidating into the integrated oil and gas company, we are just thinking of transitioning from the accelerated growth strategy of our 2020 and then consolidating into the operatorship drive if we get a buy-in into that. Then when we become an efficient operator, then that can lead us into an integrated oil or energy company. So we have plans for that, and that is what I've spelled out. Because if you don't do that, we'll always be playing the minority role and seen as just facilitators, and it doesn't add on into our revenue stream. So a strong GMPC would be a good protector of Ghana's natural resources, and GMPC, after all, is owned by Ghana. So therefore, when it is successful for us to become an integrated energy company, Ghanaians from all walks of life will be the beneficiaries. I hope I've answered your questions.
So has that strategy been affected by COVID-19? How has it affected that strategy? Is it on hold? Is it now postponed to 2021, 2022? How is that working at the moment?
Yeah, in terms of the main accelerated growth strategies, we have 4, and then one has been hit hard, as building capacity and enhancing our activities, and then also the replacing and then growing our reserves, because now there's no exploration, there is no appraisal or development. So that is where it's been hit hard. So if you are an integrated oil and gas company, we could have go ahead and do our exploration, or for that matter, our developments, without waiting for anybody to be fly in to do that. Thank you.
I think in that case, there are lessons from Sudan's example with their various subsidiaries. So that's something that it's interesting to note how they have been able to diversify along the value chain. Thank you so much, James. Thank you. I have a question for Rudencio. It's a question specifically addressed to you, and it's in relation to local content, which happens to be my favorite topic. And your question is how the Mozambican government enforces local content, the institutions and legislation to regulate the behavior of IOCs during this COVID-19 pandemic. Essentially, I think what the questioner is trying to get at is that is local content still ongoing during these very difficult times? Is there any mechanism available to increase local content during this time? Or is it a scenario where when there are difficulties and challenges with a lot of IOCs, local content is the one that gets jettisoned first? So how are you coping with this in Mozambique?
So local content is it's a very important subject for government of Mozambique. And as you may know, what we are trying to do as ENH and even for INP, because we know some of the things, we are trying to put together all the company. We are trying to assess, let's say, the quality of those company, the kind of jobs that they can deliver, and try to deep understand and try to give them the tools that they need, because as we are inside on the oil and gas sector, we know the things that the company, the IOCs, the normal they use, the standard that they need to those companies to have. What we are doing is try to assess around the country, Mozambique, find the company, trying to feed them with the things that the IOCs they need. So as the country is partial closed, no one can fly in. So what we are trying to do is try to deep understand those process, try to deep assess all those companies, and try to talk to them to say, okay, we have this and that opportunity, so you can play a very important role on that opportunity. So if we are stopped, let's say 12 months, 10 months, so it means it's a time that you can use it to improve your capacity. You can use this to improve your ability to do, in order that when we open, and we hope so in January, February 2021, you should be able to support this and that job. So we are trying to, let's say, to minimize that impact, building capacity, building solution technology, solution tools that can help those companies to participate as a local content on all of those projects. As you may know, we can have specialized area, we can have direct area, and we can have some of the area that are not much specialized. So what we are trying to do is trying to specialize those companies, helping them with the things as ENH we know, and try to build those capacities in order that next year in 2021 they can be able at least to pick up some of the opportunities that we can find linked to the oil and gas sector.
Thank you. Thank you, Ridensi. I think that's an excellent strategy to adopt. I think this COVID-19 is a lesson to all of us about global supply chains. And when things go wrong, we all then end up being held hostage. So yes, I agree with you. I think it offers fantastic opportunities for local content and capacity building during this period when everything is quiet. Because of the time, I'm just going to take two last questions and then I will pass on to Ben. So my last but not the least question goes, well, not the last one, the one before the last is, I'm going to Leparan in Kenya. And Leparan, I'll be very interested to know what you've done about data, because all NOCs have complied with protocols and staff are now working from home. But we also know that in this industry, data is like gold in this industry. It's very important. Confidentiality protections around data is very important. So can you share with us how you've managed issues relating to data and insecure internet protections and all the rest of it? How have you handled it in Kenya?
Thanks, Juliet. It's a good question. Regarding issues of handling company confidentiality, including data, it all boils down to the level of trust you put on your employees, because if staff are to play with data, then it does not necessarily have to be when they are working from home. They could still do it even from the office. Having said that, in terms of managing the confidentiality and to minimize the instances of abuse of data, we have ensured that the systems that we use are well encrypted, so that then we minimize the impact of hacking into our systems. And each month, our IT department undertakes audit to establish attempted efforts of hackers to try and access the system in an effort to hack into our data. And luckily, we have not been victims to any issue. And that purely is because of the kind of firewalls that we've put around our IT systems.
Thank you so much. James, any problems in GMPC data? Have you had any issues with data security, or everything is protected?
Everything is protected, as he said.
Everything's protected. Okay, thank you. Okay. Then my last question here is lessons learned. And ideally, what I wanted to do was to go around just to get 1 minute from each panelist, just to, if you can, just capture one particular lesson that you've learned from your IOC partners, in any one particular good practice that you say you've learned during this period, that going forward you will implement, which will really help you. We hope that there wouldn't be any such pandemics in future, but just a good staff welfare, security, or anything relating to business continuity or any other practice. Just 1 minute for my 4 panelists. So I'll start with Ayman first from Sudan, and then I'll move on after that. So just 1 minute, if you can just summarize one lasting lesson that you've learned.
One of the most lessons that we affect the technology. This conference, in most of our meetings, this is very important things now, and we have been fully utilized during this lockdown. And we are closely meeting following the projects inside Sudan and outside Sudan with the partner. This is the good things that did by COVID-19 lockdown. And the second thing is the protections, that's the lessons have been learned from the protocol, have been used in testing our staff and crew change to continue doing the same precautions to protect our staff from spreading, because this COVID-19 may continue with us for years or many years. No one will know. So we need to keep doing our precautions for our staff, either in headquarters or at fields, and mainly at fields on the fields upstream and even downstream in refineries and pipelines. So we need to continue restricting our we learned from the lesson learned from our last 3 months.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll just catch Leparan just before he leaves. He has to leave us. So if you can just quickly summarize for us in 1 minute, just before you leave, as to what is the most important lesson that you've learned during this period.
Thanks, Juliet. If you would have asked me 5 years, where I see myself, where I see Kenya, where I see the world in, I don't think I would have tried. And so one of the biggest things I've learned from this experience is to prepare for the unforeseen, that things can change any minute. This is the biggest lesson that we have picked. And the best approach to this is to keep an open mind and to take advantage of the existing resources to try and mitigate. And I think we are going to adopt the new normal going forward. We have done very many things online, things that ordinarily we never imagined that we can do using technology. So I think technology as an enabler for business to thrive is very important, irrespective of what is going to happen tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Just one last clarification. The 6,000 patients, 6,000 positive tests you mentioned in Kenya, is that the oil and gas industry or the whole of Kenya?
That is for the whole of Kenya.
The whole of Kenya. Okay. Thank you so much, Leparan. I know you have to leave. Thank you for your time, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wish the panelists and the rest of the people in the webinar the best. And we hope we will keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you. So very quickly, James, what lesson have you learned? Final lesson, and then we can have Ben come in. So just one minute.
Yeah, generally, most of the upstream operations have been suspended, and GNPC and Ghana must wait. So there is a serious need for GNPC's operatorship agenda to be strengthened and supported, and then also diversification into other segments along the energy value chain. That is very key to secure multiple revenue streams and then hedge downside demands risk. Thank you.
Thank you. We hear you, James. I know it's very dear to your heart because you keep repeating it. So thank you so much. Rudencio, and then I'll cut back to
Thank you, Juliet. One of the most things that we have learned with this COVID-19, technology and innovation will lead us to future. So we need to be together with technology, with innovation. We need to invest on that. We need to have an open mind in order to be sufficient and to fight against things like COVID-19. So what I have to say right now, and the Zoom is one of the example, we need to share more our challenges. We need to talk each other, but putting together that technology and innovation will lead us to future. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Rudencio. Obrigado again. Thank you. I'm just going to hand over to Ben. Unfortunately, as with all these conversations, just when it's getting exciting, then the time is up. And I know Ben has the very sad duty of coming to summarize and then close us down for today. But I do believe this is not the end of this conversation. I do believe that once we've started, we can keep this conversation going. We can keep the network going. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for my august panelists who have given their time this afternoon to share with us. Thank you also to the various participants that are listening in to us through Zoom, Facebook, all the other social media platforms. And thank you so much, Ben, and thank you, ACEP, for once again having me moderate this session. This is I don't take this very lightly, and thank you so much. It is an honor and a privilege to do this. Thank you, Ben. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Juliet, for holding the fort for us in a very short notice. We are so grateful to you. We thank you all panel for a very insightful conversation, really showing the difference between a typical oil company and a national oil company. The lessons are really noticeable. What really is cross-cutting between yesterday's conversation and now, either a national oil company or an IOC, there is a need to really adjust to the times and really ensure that into the future, we can plan for the unforeseen, which is quite remarkable. Technology is coming to stay. As much as possible, we will have to continue using technology to communicate and to operationalize some of our functions. Efficiency is also becoming a very critical factor, ensuring that you can reduce your cost in situations like this. The model that we're seeing from Sudan, the integrated model, is something maybe we want to delve deeper at another level because GMPC wants to do the same model. So if we can share more on how that is helping to adjust in some of these difficult times, that helps shape some of those conversations about an integrated national oil company, as has emerged through this conversation. We're seeing the impact, coming across countries. Exploration budget is declining. That is largely because we're depending on IOCs. Into the future, how our national oil company is going to be able to have the muscle to continue to do the exploration in some of these challenging periods. And also the lesson from Sudan, where they were quickly able to isolate their platforms to ensure that operations are not impacted. That is also quite remarkable. And that is because they also had control as a national oil company. So how do we empower national oil companies, make them much more capable into the future? These are all important conversations that we have picked from this. Tomorrow, we are continuing the conversation with service companies, trying to see how they have also been impacted by COVID. And we will do a proper summation of all the conversation that has evolved between from yesterday to tomorrow. So thank you once again, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the last conversation on this. But more importantly, we'll continue having this engagement to ensure that we can improve the lot of Africans through the exploitation of our resources. Thank you very much. And thank you also to the over 100 participants who joined us and those who are watching on social media platforms. We are grateful for your time. Join us again tomorrow for another session. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Okay.
are going, but we know we will get there. We are going. We know we will get there. Boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. We will